Let's get brutally honest for a moment. In love, there's always psychology at play, whether we like to admit it or not. Relationships aren't built on feelings alone. They're shaped by influence, by perception, by subtle techniques that either pull people closer or quietly push them away. Now, I want to be clear. When I say manipulation, I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about playing games or tricking someone into loving you. I'm talking about understanding human psychology, the subtle, often unconscious patterns that influence how people feel, connect, and fall for each other. And if you don't learn to navigate this, you're always at the mercy of those who do. See, whether it's in love, friendship, or even work, people are constantly influenced by small psychological triggers. The way you speak, the energy you project, the boundaries you set, the mystery you create. These are all forms of influence. And when used with integrity, they can deepen connection, spark desire, and build emotional safety. So let's dive into a few of the most powerful psychological techniques that quietly shape love. And no, they're not about manipulation in the toxic sense. They're about conscious influence grounded in self-respect. First, scarcity. It's simple human nature. We value what's rare. When you make yourself too available, when you pour all your energy into someone before they've earned it, you devalue yourself. But when you create space, when your time, attention, and energy feel earned, not assumed, that's when people lean in. Second, consistency and contrast. We crave the familiar, but we're obsessed with surprise. The art of keeping someone intrigued lies in striking the balance between being consistent enough to build trust, but unpredictable enough to stay exciting. Be reliable, but never be boring. Show up, but keep a little mystery. Third, non-reactivity. One of the most powerful psychological triggers in love. How you handle their emotional ups and downs. When someone pushes your buttons, tests your boundaries, or pulls away, your ability to remain calm, composed, and grounded says everything. People chase what they can't emotionally destabilize. Fourth, validation. But selective. Everyone loves to feel seen and appreciated, but constant, over-the-top compliments. They lose their meaning fast. The trick is to give sincere validation, but make it feel earned. A compliment after they've shown effort means 10x more than empty flattery. Finally, the mirror technique. Humans are drawn to familiarity. Subtly reflecting someone's energy, pace, or values builds subconscious rapport. When done authentically, they feel seen, understood, and most importantly, safe. But here's the truth. These techniques are never about control. They're about self-awareness. They're about understanding how attraction, desire, and connection actually work beneath the surface and using that knowledge with integrity. Because love isn't just about waiting for chemistry to magically happen. It's about understanding the psychology at play and choosing to influence, not manipulate, to attract, not chase, to create connection, not control. And when you master that, you stop wondering why love feels so hard. And you start becoming the person who naturally inspires the connection you deserve. Let's talk about one of the most misunderstood dynamics in love, scarcity. Because here's the reality. We're wired to crave what feels rare. It's human psychology 101. And yet, so many people sabotage their value in relationships by making themselves constantly available, physically, emotionally, energetically. But let me ask you something. When has anything that was handed to you freely ever felt as desirable as the thing you had to work for? See, the human brain is designed to assign value based on perceived rarity. When something is limited, whether it's time, attention, or emotional access, it automatically feels. And in love, the same rule applies. The moment you make yourself available 24/7, the moment you drop your plans, your boundaries, your standards, just to accommodate someone, you unknowingly tell them, you don't need to earn me, I'm just here. And that's not attractive. It doesn't inspire respect. It doesn't spark longing. It doesn't fuel desire. But when you move differently, when you're intentional with your energy, when you create space, not out of games, but out of self-respect, you immediately become more desirable. You signal to the world and to them that your time, your heart, your attention isn't handed out freely. It's earned. And that subtle shift, it changes everything. Imagine meeting someone new. There's chemistry, there's excitement, but instead of dropping everything to be at their beck and call, you stay grounded. You prioritize your life. You make time when it aligns with your standards. You respond when it fits your rhythm, not out of desperation. Suddenly they feel it. They lean in. They wonder, why isn't she chasing? Why isn't she available at my convenience? Who else might be valuing her time? And that curiosity, that uncertainty, it's powerful. It builds desire naturally. But here's the thing. This isn't about manipulation. It's about alignment. It's about valuing yourself so deeply that you refuse to pour energy into someone prematurely. Because when you treat yourself as rare, others are forced to see you that way too. You stop being an option and start being the prize. So remember, scarcity creates value. Your attention, your time, your presence, they're gifts. And the right person, they'll rise to the occasion to earn them. But only if you stop giving yourself away for free. Let's talk about something most people miss when it comes to love. It's not just about making someone feel safe. It's not just about building trust. It's also about keeping them intrigued. Because here's the truth. Love without stability feels chaotic. But love without mystery, it feels flat. See, we're wired for both. On one hand, we crave consistency, the familiar rhythm, the predictability that builds security. But on the other hand, we're drawn to contrast, the little moments of surprise that remind us this person still has layers, still has edges, still has that spark we can't fully figure out. And when you master that balance, that's when love becomes addictive. Think about it. Imagine someone who shows up for you consistently. They're reliable. They follow through on their word. They're emotionally steady. That's attractive. It builds trust. But if that's all there is, if every conversation feels the same, if every interaction becomes predictable, the spark starts to fade. The mystery dissolves, and suddenly what once felt exciting now feels routine. But now picture this. That same consistency, the reliability, the trust, paired with moments that break the pattern, unexpected compliments, a playful challenge in conversation, an invitation to do something spontaneous, a glimpse of a side of them you haven't seen yet. That's what keeps someone hooked. That's what makes love feel alive. And it works both ways. When you show up with that mix, consistent but not predictable, you become magnetic. They feel safe but never bored. They know you, but they don't have you completely figured out. There's always more to discover. And here's the key. This isn't about playing games. It's about embracing your depth. It's about understanding that you're not one-dimensional. You can be nurturing and bold, reliable and playful, grounded and mysterious. That duality, it's irresistible. So many people lose attraction because they think the way to keep someone interested is to over-explain, to always be available, to make everything predictable and easy. But desire isn't built in the known. It's built in the spaces where someone thinks, there's more to this person, I want to explore that. So if you want love that lasts, be consistent, be reliable, but never lose your edges. Never lose your mystery. Keep them intrigued, not by withholding, but by showing them there's always more to learn about you. Because the right balance of familiarity and surprise, that's not manipulation, that's mastery. That's how love stays exciting, long after the first spark. Let me tell you something most people never realize. Your ability to stay calm when someone tests you, when they pull away, go quiet, or push your emotional buttons is one of the most magnetic qualities you can develop. See, relationships will test you. Whether it's intentional or not, people want to know, can I shake you? Can I destabilize your confidence? Will you fold under emotional pressure? And if the answer is yes, if you crumble the moment someone goes cold, plays hot and cold, or triggers your insecurities, you immediately lose power. Not because you're weak, but because emotional reactivity communicates neediness, uncertainty, and a lack of self-control. But when you stay still, when you don't flinch, when there's silence, distance, or mood swings don't rattle your energy, that's when real attraction kicks in. Think about it. Imagine you test someone, you take a little space, you throw a curveball, maybe even acting different, and they don't chase. They don't spiral. They don't overreact. They stay grounded, calm, composed. What happens? Suddenly you're curious. Why isn't this bothering them? Why are they so unshaken? What do they know about themselves? That makes them so confident. And that quiet strength, it's intoxicating. Because here's what happens when you practice emotional non-reactivity. You signal security. You show you're not easily manipulated by circumstances or temporary emotions. You communicate that your world doesn't revolve around their every mood or action. And for someone who's used to people chasing, explaining, over-justifying, you instantly stand out. But let me be clear, this isn't about being cold. It's not about withholding affection or shutting down emotionally. It's about self-mastery. It's about understanding that your emotions are yours to regulate and no one else gets to control them. So the next time someone pulls away, the next time they go silent, act distant, or test your boundaries, pause, breathe. Remind yourself, I don't chase, I observe. I don't react, I respond if and when it feels right. Because nothing makes you more powerful, more desirable than the ability to stay rooted in your self-worth, no matter how much someone tries to shake it. Emotional non-reactivity, it's not manipulation, it's mastery. And it's exactly what keeps you magnetic in the moments where most people fall apart. Let me let you in on a subtle but powerful truth about human connection. We all crave validation. We want to feel seen. We want to feel appreciated. We want to feel chosen. But here's where most people go wrong. They hand out that validation too easily. They overpraise. They compliment every little thing. They flood someone with attention and approval. And in doing so, they devalue their own words. See, when validation is constant, when it's given freely, without discernment, it loses its impact. It stops feeling special. It stops feeling earned. It starts feeling expected. But when validation is selective, when it's given sincerely, sparingly after real effort, that's when it becomes powerful. That's when your words land with weight. That's when your approval starts to mean something. Think about it like this. Imagine someone compliments you every 5 minutes on your looks, your clothes, your personality, even when you haven't done much to deserve it. At first, it feels good, but over time, it starts to feel hollow. It starts to feel like they're just saying it to keep you interested, not because they truly see you. But now imagine they're kind, they're attentive, but they don't over flatter. And then after you've shown vulnerability, after you've shared something meaningful, after you've demonstrated integrity, effort, or kindness, that's when they say, that thing you just did, that's really attractive. Boom, it hits differently. It feels earned. It feels real. It deepens the connection. And here's the key. Selective validation isn't about playing games or being cold. It's about elevating your standards and making your approval mean something. When you only validate after seeing effort After noticing something genuinely admirable, you show that your attention, your praise, your energy are valuable. And that creates two powerful effects. You naturally filter out the people who aren't willing to meet your standards. You motivate the right person to rise to the occasion because they want to earn your approval. And that's not manipulation. That's psychology. That's understanding how desire works beneath the surface. So the next time you feel the urge to shower someone with praise, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, have they truly done something to earn this? Because when you make your validation selective, your words hit harder, your attention feels rarer, and your value in their eyes skyrockets. In love, it's not about withholding affection. It's about making your approval feel earned. And when you do, you stop chasing connection and you start inspiring it naturally. There's a reason we naturally gravitate towards certain people. It's not always their looks. It's not their status. It's something far more subtle, but far more powerful. It's familiarity. It's that feeling of, I get them and they get me. And often that feeling is created, not by magic, but by psychology. This is where the mirror technique comes in. At its core, the mirror technique is simple. We're drawn to people who subtly reflect our own energy, language, pace, and values. It makes us feel understood. It makes us feel safe. It makes us feel seen. And here's what's fascinating. It's often subconscious. We don't consciously think, oh, they're reflecting me, but our nervous system picks up on it. And suddenly we feel comfortable, connected, intrigued. Think about it. When you meet someone who shares your rhythm, they lean in when you lean in. They mirror your tone, calm when you're calm, playful when you're playful. They subtly use similar words or phrases without realizing it. You feel aligned. You feel like you belong. And that feeling, it's addictive. Now, let me be clear. This isn't about copying someone or faking who you are. It's about subtle awareness. It's about tuning into their energy and allowing your natural warmth, curiosity, and authenticity to reflect theirs. When done with integrity, it builds instant rapport. It accelerates trust. It makes them feel emotionally safe, which ironically makes attraction grow faster and stronger. But here's where the real power lies. The mirror technique isn't just about building connection, it's about building influence. Because when someone feels seen by you, they're more open to being led by you. They're more willing to invest. They are more likely to lean in emotionally. And it all happens quietly, without you ever having to over-explain, overshare, or try too hard. This works in romantic connections. It works in friendships, even works in professional relationships. Because at the end of the day, we all crave the same thing. To feel seen, to feel understood, to feel like someone gets us without us having to try. And when you master this, you don't just connect, you become unforgettable. You become the person the nervous system relaxes around, the person their heart feels safe exploring, the person they naturally lean toward without even knowing why. That's not manipulation. That's emotional intelligence. That's understanding this subtle psychology that builds real, lasting connection. Let's clear something up. There's a big difference between control and influence. And understanding that difference, it's what separates the people who constantly struggle in love from the ones who seem to naturally draw others in. Control comes from fear. It comes from insecurity. It's rooted in that desperate need to force an outcome, to shape someone's behavior, to cling so tightly that the connection eventually suffocates. But influence, that comes from self-awareness. It comes from understanding human psychology and using that understanding not to manipulate, but to inspire, to create space for genuine attraction to grow. When you operate from influence, not control, you don't have to chase. You don't have to force conversations. You don't have to over-explain your worth. Your presence, your energy, your standards, they do the work for you. Here's what that looks like. It's when you understand that scarcity creates value. So you're intentional with your time, not constantly available out of fear. It's when you balance familiarity with surprise, building trust, but never losing your mystery. It's when you master emotional non-reactivity, staying grounded when someone tests your boundaries instead of falling apart. It's when your validation is selective. Your approval feels earned, not handed out freely. It's when you use the mirror technique, not to copy, but to create subconscious comfort and trust. And most importantly, it's when you know you are already enough. You don't need to control anyone. You don't need to cling. You don't need to micromanage how someone feels about you. Because when you operate from self-awareness, you naturally influence how people experience you. You inspire respect. You spark curiosity. You create desire without ever having to chase it. And that is where your real power lies. See, the people who try to control, they live in constant anxiety, always wondering, are they pulling away? Did I say the right thing? What do I need to do to make them stay? But the people who master influence, they know the right person stays not because you force them, but because you created an environment where connection, attraction, and respect naturally thrive. And when you live that way with quiet confidence, emotional intelligence, and unwavering self-awareness, you don't just attract love, you attract the kind of love that feels secure, exciting, and real. So no, this isn't about control. It's not about manipulation. It's about knowing who you are, understanding how human connection works, and using that knowledge with integrity to create the love you deserve.